Welcome to On Time in Full, a podcast from Designed Conveyor Systems.
Welcome to another episode of On Time in Full. I'm your host, Yasmin Hassan. Today we're diving into what it takes to lead large-scale warehouse projects, from planning and collaboration to driving continuous improvement. Our guest today is Jose Osorio, an expert in material handling with experience at VI and Design Conveyor Systems. With a background in engineering and advanced business degrees, he has a really unique combination of both the technical and strategic side of things. So with that, let's get started. Jose, I know you have worked on some really big, complex projects, but is there one you would say you're especially proud of or one that really sticks out to you?
Yes. Good morning. Nice to be here, Yasmin. Yes, there's one that stands out, which is the current one. Actually, I am working on a very large project for USPS. It's the first time we DCS are working for them. The novelty of the client and the product that we're delivering to them, the new challenges that we're facing because of everything being new makes it to stand out. And the fact that we're having a very successful delivery, the client has stated several times how happy they are with what we're delivering to them. It makes me very proud of being involved in this project.
I mean, you love to hear that from a client, but what do you think specifically is making it such a success?
The communication that we have established with the client, the open channels, the fact that it is a client that is it's still maturing on their solutions, on what they want for their systems. And once they hired us, instead of getting only the final product on the installation, we are approaching them from a consultant perspective as well. So we're trying to find solutions to them, with them, actually. So we're not trying just to push a certain product that we want to sell to install. We're looking for what it's best for them, because the CS motto is we don't only deliver the best product that we can, we also make the client have the best customer experience. And that approach, I think, is making them very happy than just getting kind of off the shelf product from another vendor they could get.
So I know that your background is in civil engineering.
Yeah.
How do you think that's really influenced the way you approach warehouse automation or material handling?
That's actually a very interesting question, because civil engineering is, as when I was studying, I used to say, is the broadest of all the engineerings. Because I don't know if you know, but the term civil engineering comes from back in 2 centuries ago. You had military engineering and civil engineering. So civil engineering at that time took care of everything that was non-military related. And then over time, those branches were getting more specialized. So you got mechanical engineering, electrical engineer, computer engineer, etc. So we tend to have a very holistic look at projects by degree, but the degree of civil engineer pushes you to have a very broad view of things. And that helps a lot being a PM, because you have to look to the project as a whole, not just getting the material on site and put it together. There's the conversation with the sales teams when the sales teams is transferring the project to the operations team. Then I need to talk to procurement. I need to talk to finance. I need to talk to the people that are actually executing the project. I need to talk to the people that are going to do the customer service once the project is done, and talk to the client through all of that. So that holistic view that engineering gives me helps very much with being a project manager.
That's so interesting. I've never heard that about civil engineering.
Yeah.
So speaking of having that really broad background, I know you've also worn a lot of hats, likely due to that background: sales, quality assurance, project delivery. How do you think that background has really helped you aligning your team, especially when it comes to a really big implementation?
On a big implementation like the one we're doing right now, there are a lot of teams involved. There are a little subset of teams involved in this project. And coming from having a sales background, it helps me to listen more and understand. First, the preferred way of communicating. People have different ways that they like to communicate. And if you're able to understand that and communicate to them in a way that's close to what they prefer, that communication becomes more effective. So this is something that the sales background helps me manage with the team, all the different little stakeholders that I have on the team, including the client. This client is very interesting. We have very different profiles that I have to deal with, personalities per se, and I have to tailor my communication to them depending on who they are. It's it's very interesting to see how they react differently and I think more efficiently when I tailor the communication to that type of people. And the quality background that I have, it helps me with the number part of it. So the performance that we're having, looking at the numbers, looking where we can improve, where we're going to have to shift the focus to at the end have a better result.
So, when it comes to that communication, I'm sure you're having to deal with, like you said, communicating in one way with the clients sometimes, and then with your team in a different way, just really depending on how people communicate and receive information. How do you think, or where do you think the biggest gaps are when it comes to that communication with the technical side of things, and then maybe communicating with the client and just closing in those gaps to make sure that everyone is on the same page?
Um, I think the biggest gap is on the us to customer communication, the PM to the site team of the client, because I know the level of knowledge of my team. So I know when I can be technical with them, and I know when sometimes I have to explain what I'm saying, and I know when I have to ask you, what do you mean by that? Because I don't have the technical expertise that they have. With a client, it's an ever trying to figure out where they are because I haven't worked with them before. And sometimes I have people rotating in the project that come with a different background that I'm unfamiliar with. So that communication, double checking, it's key, and it's easier said than done. Sometimes you just forget to check if the message that you sent was received as you expected it to be received. And sometimes you forget to check, hey, is this actually what you mean? Is my understanding correct of what you're saying? And that is the biggest gap that you have to be most careful with to cover.
I think that's such a good point. I used to work with someone, and after a meeting, sometimes he would say, "Now tell me what you heard." Which at first I was almost a little offended, like, "What do you mean?" But there have been times where I've said, "Here's what I think. Here was my takeaway," and he's like, "No, that's not the message I was trying to get across." So there is always a little bit of that gap in what you're trying to convey versus what the person is receiving. So I think that's so important, just to double check and make
Yeah.
sure everyone is receiving that information the way that you intended.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a book in my MBA. I unfortunately I don't remember the name of the book, but they had a graph showing how communication works. You have the sender, the receiver, and the noise in between. And there's always noise in between. So that double checking, as your that former colleague of yours did, is fundamental.
I'd love to know, when it comes to working on things and improving, we're always trying, of course, continuously improve in the industry. What do you think that looks like for a team that is always working to continuously improve? And are there specific things that you see from the team that are doing it really well, things that really stand out to you?
Yeah, I love to say to my team, let's identify the mistakes we've made. So for the next project, we make new mistakes. I don't want to do the same mistakes that I did in this one. So what we do here at DCS is we're very, very focused on our lessons learned process. So after this project, I'm arriving my go live date. So I'm about to hand over the project to my client, and 2 weeks after that, so I'll let the team have a time off, reset with their families and whatnot. Then we're going to get together again, and we're going to do a very deep dive on the lessons learned. Where, what were the mistakes that we made? Where we could have done better, and bring those lessons to future projects. And also importantly, share with my peers. So I have several colleagues working with different clients. They might have different challenges than mine. But if I share what I've been through and the solutions that we found, they might be able to adapt that to their projects. And then the DCS as a whole is continuously improving, not just the project team.
I love that so much. I think, unrealistic to think we're not going to run into any sort of hiccups or mistakes, but let's not make the same one twice. If we're going to make a mistake tomorrow, let's make sure that it's not the one that we made today.
Making a new mistake is a sign that you're evolving, you're moving forward.
So I know that when it comes to really big projects, you've worked on, really big, multi-million dollar projects, budgets, tight deadlines. There's a lot of things to juggle. I'm wondering how you're able to keep stakeholders on the same page, especially like we were just talking about. Not everything is going to go exactly according to plan every single day.
So I've done several things throughout my career, and what I've found to be most efficient is to have a daily summary to my internal team. This is what happened today, and that goes to the guys that are executing the job on site and to my leadership in its different levels of communication, different levels of detail. For instance, my vice president, he's overlooking 50, 60 different projects. I will not dive into the level of detail that the guys are working with my project exclusively. It's a different level of communication that needs to be had. But I like to keep them informed of everything that's happening daily. And to the client, I have some daily interactions with the client on site or via communication, but I do send by the end of the week on every Friday, I send them a summary of that week. Hey, these were the goals for the week. This is where we stand. These are the challenges that I'm seeing for next week or for this month ahead kind of thing. And these are the challenges that I need your support with because I need your input or whatever you need from the client. And these are the challenges that I'm working with internally, and I'll let you know how the solution goes. And if on the next week, I follow up on those comments that I made in the previous week. So that's how I like to keep everyone informed.
When it comes to that collaboration, is it easy or challenging to really, that communication is one hurdle, but what about the trust, building trust between every single department kind of has its own little niche and communication styles, but how are you really able to build that collaboration trust that helps you accomplish those goals?
It's a fine balance of being proactive on solving problems and being upfront about it. So I've learned the hard way sometimes that not sharing the problem with the client is not it's not something that's going to help you in the long run. Sometimes when I was starting my career, I thought that, oh, I need to fix this so the client doesn't see that we have this kind of inefficiency. Nowadays, I'm very open with them. Hey, we have this problem and we're going to fix it before it impacts us more in the future. So bringing the client into that conversation early on builds trust. So the client knows Jose is not here to hide things from me. Jose is here to deliver me the best project, the best customer's experience that I can have. Even if it means to say, hey, we have a problem. This specific problem will take a month to solve. I know you would like to say that I can solve it tomorrow, but I can't. I will solve it in this amount of time because that's the realistic approach. So being sincere in that way with the client helps building that trust.
And just that transparency, I think, really lets people trust you because you're not hiding things if you're already saying, hey, everything is not necessarily perfect, because that's just not realistic. So I think that that's such a good approach when it comes to like building the trust with teams and with the clients specifically.
Yeah. We like to say, my colleagues and I here in DC, we like to say, if the projects were easy, you wouldn't need us. Like,
That's true. In your experience, I know that you've encountered people at all sorts of different skill levels. And I'm wondering, is there specific skills or specific traits that you're seeing that separate a good integrator from a really great one? Something that really would make a difference if someone is trying to work on that?
Communication. Communication is key. So, fun fact from my past lives: when I was doing, I was working back in Brazil on a major railroad in Brazil, and I was lead of accident investigations. So, whenever we had a train accident, I would deploy a team or be inside and investigate what caused that accident. We found out that 99%, if not more, of the accidents were caused by an error in communication. And some point there was a mistake in the communication that caused that accident. Oh, but it was a mechanical failure. Okay, why did the train mechanically fail? Because the mechanicals that was doing his check was never informed that this situation was happening before, or he forgot to check something from his list. So it was a communication issue that caused the mechanical issue, which therefore caused the accident. And I bring that to my life. So that's why I try to make communication as clear as possible, as transparent as possible with the client and with the stakeholders, in fact, with my leadership, with my peers, with my team working on site, with my client, trying to keep everyone on the same page when it comes to communication. So we have our goals aligned.
Wow, yeah, you do kind of always hear that blanket technical issue, but being able to pin it back to a communication issue that hopefully can then be resolved and doesn't repeat itself
Yep.
is staggering.
Yep. And it's, again, much easier said than done because
Sure.
it's natural that, for instance, the side team, which is working together every day for a long period of time, you kind of tend to forget that there's people around you or people back in the office, or that the client has an office as well. The client has something to report to. So it's hard to keep the perception, the awareness that there are stakeholders that you're not seeing. Not everybody is visible to you. So you have to not only try to communicate clearly, but also knowing that that communication will reach tiers that are not exactly interfacing with you at that moment.
Jose, I'm wondering if there are some tougher lessons that you've had to learn. Unfortunately, some lessons we learn the hard way. There's no other real way to learn. Are there ones that really, or is there one that really sticks out to you, or something that you now pass on to your team right away to make sure that they then in turn don't have to learn it that way?
Yeah, and don't assume that your assumptions are always correct. I had so first of all, I would be lying to you if I said no. I never had a problem on a 25 plus years of working in the field. I misjudge the communication style of a client, and that turned into a snowball to the point that the one specific manager on the client side said that he wouldn't work for me with me. So and that was probably 10 years ago. But still, it's something that made me learn the hard way a mistake that I had made. I lost that project to internally in the company. I was removed from the project, sent to another one because the client stated I don't want to work with him because that misalignment in communication.
Something that still sticks out to you.
Oh, it's interesting. I was talking to a former colleague yesterday, and he was remembering because he also had issues with the same client at the same project, and he's like, that made us where we are today. So that hurt a lot at the time. It was we saw it as a walking backwards in our career at a point, but we wouldn't be where we are. He's now at a different company in a very good position for him, as I am here in a position that I wouldn't be in if I hadn't had that quote unquote bad experience that made me learn. And as far as I know, not repeating the same mistake in my next projects.
Speaking of giving advice and looking ahead to the future, always working to improve, for a company just getting ready to roll out a new material handling system or WES, is there a piece of advice that you would want to share before they start getting into that world?
Yes, look around, visit the ones that already have it, or if it's something very brand new, very that you don't think there is something in the market, talk to your vendors, ask for their vendors' expertise. There's a quote from, again, my memory fails me and I won't remember, but there's always someone that's an expert on something that you don't know. And so look for those people that know more than you on what you're looking for and that can provide you that kind of guidance.
Such good advice. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with all of our listeners, all of our viewers. This was such a pleasure.
My pleasure, Yasmin. Thank you very much.
That's a wrap on this episode of On Time in Full. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please be sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Yasmin Hassan. We'll see you next time.